Thank you, Janine. What I would love to add is as we enter into the mind, into the heart, into the womb of our Divine Mother, Father, Sophia, may all that listen, who look to this, receive all that they need to, so that with that emanation, whether through word or through presence or through vibration or through code, may their hearts receive that gentle reminder, that gentle remembrance, that gentle presence of grace that is always there. Thank you.
Amen. Thank you so much. So, welcome, beautiful Sorette. It is such an honor to have you here at the True Essence podcast. And yeah, I just feel like thanking you for being open, for having to have this conversation and exchange and explore like everything that we feel like exploring within that space. But for all the beautiful people and souls that are just clicking in, I would love for you to just share a little bit about you, who you are, what you're doing, to have a little introduction. Thank you.
It's one sentence, the question, yet it's a whole life of an answer. And I would love, as a means of reflecting the truth of who we are, share both simultaneously. And the both is I'm in a human form like all of us are. And I'm simultaneously in a divine expression as all of us are. And there's many words and frequencies and codes that usually just flow through me. And I'm allowing that to be so. And what is really moving to the forefront in this moment is to always know when we share, and if I say we, I include all people on this planet currently, when we share parts of our human story, we are not recreating that. We are giving expression and a voice to those that don't fully understand that we need to walk a human journey. And through my experience, the deeper in seemingly suffering we are, the greater the gift we bring. And not from an egoic perspective ever, always from a deep gnosis that is why we came here, is to view all aspects of humanity as the one that have walked and experienced it, and therefore never to judge another's path, because it's always chosen until that moment when we can reflect back and realize, oh my goodness, there was never ever anything wrong with me. It was never ever about not being valued. It was never ever about not being enough. It was always and only always so to prepare us to hold the place of sovereignty, so that all that has walked a path can share freely and honestly what they've been through, and through doing so, be witnessed from a place of, yeah, I know, I've been there. And that for me is where the alchemy occurred, is the knowing that I wanted to birth into a physical form. So I'm going to start with that part. I wanted to birth into a physical form, into a place on our earth where there's two stories that is shown to others. The one story is there's a lot of suffering and decay and seemingly disharm, disorganization, confusion, and fear in all its expressions being experienced. So that is one view that is projected out to the world. And there's another view that's also projected out into the world that says it's a country of freedom. Yet this freedom is not true freedom. It's just this overlay over the suffering to siphon energy from others when they just think about Africa and South Africa. And I didn't know it at the time, but when I then chose to birth into this, I chose to forget fully. I know there's many that have since childhood already been, cyclically aware and could see and could hear and could sense. But it wasn't like that for me. I chose to forget completely. And there was always this aspect in me, though, that held me true to reminding me in the moment when there's real deep forgetting happening in the moment. So it was always this guiding light within me. I always knew that guiding light was there. Yet it was one small little light in this whole place and space called South Africa in Africa. And I walked through all of it. My parents both fully asleep, and equally so, both of their lines and lineages fully asleep. And that's why I chose that specific line. And I remember the stories that I've been told since I was born of how fearful country this is and how segregation is taking place and how discrimination is taking place. I heard that story since I was born from everyone that was around me, and whether it was from family or from the small little schools we go to, and then the bigger school, etc. This was the stories. And I also remember that the evening before my mother gave birth to me, she and my father was in a motor accident. Oh, wow. So my birthing into this incarnation came from a very traumatic place. And I wasn't ready to come. I was a breech baby. And as they took me from the womb, I was placed in this little glass box. So I had no interaction with my parents for many days. And I couldn't even breathe fresh air. But that's how my soul chose it. I now know differently. So I'm sharing that, and I'm going to share a few highlights just to appreciate the kind of journey that it has taken me to where I am in this moment. So that was how I came into this world, incarnated. And there was, from that moment or this moment, so many experiences that have shaped me into really, really, really forgetting. And there was always moments of shock that has brought my awareness into the present moment again. So that little light that was guiding me always came through as a shock. So I've experienced experienced many shocks in my life. And after the birth process, my first 7 years, which is our forming years, was equally traumatic. So there was many experiences. For example, there was inappropriate ways that I was touched by family members, men. There was things that I saw that I became aware of, and I knew this is not right. So there was many of these experiences. And the same continued into my years of schooling and then leaving school. So I'm going to jump a few steps because I don't think all the detail is needed. Yet sharing a story of walking a path that was really in the deepest psyche of fear. And as I left my parents' home, I really shifted in my awareness. Then I chose to not only go through traumatic physical experiences. For example, I fell and broke my jaw, and it was a very traumatic experience for me. There's so much I can say. Let me skip to what was another one. Then I also had to travel long hours from my workplace every day to get there to my home, 3 hours in the morning, 3 hours in the evening. So it was this whole journey that was very painful. And then there came a moment that I knew I had to leave the corporate environment. So the corporate environment also played a very significant role in my life, in that it was forming the foundations of really giving expression to what's important to me, and that is growth and development, transformation, and transcendence. And I could experience all of that in the role that I was. I worked with leadership transformation while I was also doing my studies in psychology. And I did my mastery in logotherapy. So that is to support people in the workplace to make sense of the experiences they was going through. So that experience already showed me there's this yearning within me for people to know there's a bigger reason why they are on this earth. Yet I couldn't see it around me as much as I wanted to share, what I was accumulating in knowledge through degrees. It wasn't received. And I knew there was something else happening behind that. So I knew it, I just didn't know it yet. There was this, there's something. And then I had a motor car accident twice. So once was with my mother, where everything stands still, and there's this attempt to wake me up fully, yet haven't happened. And the second time was in huge traffic, and again this accident. And I saw my car spinning, and I saw all the others slowing down in slow motion, like time was standing still. And I realized in that moment, there's times that expands, and we're in that experience very, very slow, like all the molecules are shifting to ensure that I was safe. So my car wasn't crashed and I was safe. But that was again another shock to my system. And I knew I had to get out of the corporate environment. And I think this is where the importance of this piece of the story is if you are unaware of who you are, Along the way, there are these experiences that takes us into a different place every time, that creates a different awareness, a different perspective. And it was always in those moments that I had the opportunity to stand still and reflect upon why all of this has happened. What am I learning here? And what can I teach others about that? And that became this theme all over my lifetime. And I knew that the moment when I met my husband was one of those moments where this light and spark within me became brighter, even more so. So now the guidance was, I was starting to listen to something inside of me, and I knew, and he also knew, that we were meant to be, we saw each other, we heard each other on a soul level. And for the very first time in my life, not my mother, not my father, not my brother, not my family, not my friends have seen me like he did. It's like he could see right through me into my soul, and I could see right through him into his soul. And as I continued on that path, there's also many shocking stories that has occurred. One of which is I knew I had to leave the corporate environment because I went into total burnout. So my whole physical body has burned out to such an extent that my cells started to not regenerate anymore. So that was quite a traumatic experience. And I'm going to bring the light strings together just now. I just want to stay with the human story for now.
I love what you're sharing. Thank you.
And I knew I had to get out of the corporate environment and heal my body. That I knew, this light within me, and maybe it was something that my husband, reflected and mirrored to me, but I knew for me, for him, for all, I need to heal my body, and that was part of my path. And during that phase, I came into contact with all aspects of energy and energy healing and understanding all energetic bodies. I made it my mission. If I really want to know something, I dive deeply into that so that I know everything about it. For example, with my studies I first studied law because I always wanted to see the justice, divine justice, but I didn't know at the time. So I hold the frequencies of doing what is, honorable from justice, and then psychology to understand the psyche of which I was, incarnated in. I wanted to understand, how does all these pieces fit together? How is identity, ego, and superego shaped into a personality? And then how does that impact the way we interact with each other? And what's the impact of that on relationships,
Wow.
And not only individual relationships, but your relationships in groups of people. And to have sight into, if this is said, what's the impact here? Wow. So it was during that, and then logotherapy and mastering all of that, because I knew if I sit with any, person or client, much like a doctor, I don't want to know this part because there's a holistic experience being had. And I want to understand all of that so that I can hold all of that. And therefore, it was important for me to really get, into all the nitty-gritty aspects of each one of those fields. And it was during my time still in the corporate world that has led up to the burnout. For example, just to give a taste of what I'm referring to when supporting others. So in my role as a leadership transformation consultant, I worked with diversity. So the diverse experiences from a psychological perspective that a person can go through, and how the country in which you are born into shapes that, and how the continent that you are born into shapes that. And, I wanted to understand how all of that works. So, for example, I went to Robben Island, is the island just off the coast of South Africa, where all the political prisoners were sent to.
Wow.
So during one of my sessions with working with leadership transformation, we went to that island and stayed there in the cells for 7 days with no warm water and, none of that. And we worked with the psyche of humanity and the transformation through each one of us there and what we are mirroring to each other, so that we can, realize on a very deep psychological level what the shifts is. So I just wanted to give a taste on how my curiosity is around such processes, because I love supporting on the, in the deepest level. There where it happens, the core of consciousness, and therefore the core of the psyche of humanity. And I've been doing that for about 25 years. And that is when the burnout happened. So my soul wanted to say to me, you've done enough of this human experience, and saw all of the different psychological manifestations and the paths that people take in expression of that, and all the complexities and intricacies that's there. It's enough. You need to get out of this. So for me, that was the wake-up call. And then I started with the healing process. And but that, when I went to Robben Island, for example, I was still, in the corporate world, and I was already married.
Wow.
And then after that, when I started working with the different energy modalities and, getting in touch with what is all our different, mental bodies, emotional body, physical body, our etheric body, our astral body, our celestial and terrestrial bodies, I started, really remembering in those moments who we are as humans, really. That is when that came to me. I really got a real understanding, but I still didn't know fully what ascension even was at that stage. So then my husband and I had 3 miscarriages. So a baby being formed and then miscarriaged, and each one of those experiences, different lessons and growths and expansions happening with each one of them. And every time when that occurred, I knew it, when it happened, there was that moment when it happened that I knew this is serving me. I asked for this. And then there was these moments that I started to work with. How dare you ask to have a miscarriage, and the judgment I had for the choices I've made. So that is something that I really had to become present with. How do I then stay fully present in the knowing that I chose that? And that for me was such a deep clearing and recalibration that has happened when I started realizing, the more I'm awakening to who I am, I can now start choosing differently, so that I don't need to have this traumatic suffering experiences to ascend, and became curious about how can that look differently, so that I can, from a healthy place that is healing continuously, start serving others. And what that has showed me is that I'm not here to serve in suffering. I'm here to serve in sovereignty. And that is where the shift has occurred for me at that stage. And as I then, and then is when I actually met the different layers of that which I was learning about, and I think important to share this. At some stage I thought, okay, so now in my mastery of all these energy bodies, I then therefore can just choose this and it will happen. But that is not how it happened. And I'm so grateful to say that it's not about what I want. And that is where I really learned about my ego was still driving the show, so to speak, you know, there was still aspects of me identifying with the identity of my humanity and my ego and my super ego and my, my human path. But ever so gently, my divinity started to weave in and, showed me all of that. And then there came this one day that I met this higher aspect of myself. And I will share about that later. But for now, what I want to share is the importance of you cannot plan it. You cannot ever know when it's going to happen, how it's going to happen, what exactly is going to happen. Nothing, nothing, nothing can prepare you for the moment when you meet the fullness and the wholeness of who you truly are. Nothing can prepare you for that. And I remember just after that, I asked myself, why did I choose to go through all of this suffering and walk this very long path through the depths of the psyche of humanity and learn about, identity and ego and super ego and try to weave that into understanding that, and then, all of that, and then learning about spirituality and all the energy bodies. It felt like in that moment, none of that mattered. None of that mattered. And I remember in that moment, that was the moment when I just said to myself, now I am not reading one book. I'm not listening to anybody else outside of me anymore. And I became very curious about what is happening within me. And that is where the shift from living externally has shifted completely to living internally. It shifted completely in 1 second. 1 second. Everything shifted. And I remember I was so overwhelmed, maybe is the word, because I didn't know that it is actually so simple. And then I had to really take a moment and realize that that chosen path has served me so beautifully, because it has shaped the knowing of what is important to me. And I can probably summarize that in one sentence. And what is important to me is that everybody know that they are not their humanity or any of the paths that they have walked, but that they are the accumulation and integration and merging of all of that wisdom that was required. And that was the learnings of all those shocks that I've been through, has distilled the purity of my consciousness. And in the same breath, it has also clarified everything for me. And it showed me the importance of this drive that I have, that I'm, through everything that I go through, learn, take the pull of wisdom and give that pulse to others. Because I want others to know that as they take the pull, they remember they are the pull and they don't need to take the pull. And that is what my human journey showed me in that moment. And then this whole spiritual journey started. And that was so that the first path of my human journey was externally. And then the second path or part of the journey was internally. And where I'm sitting here right now in this moment is where those two paths has woven together so beautifully, equal in their importance, and brought me and are continuously bringing me to this place where I know I am all that I am, and so are you, and so is everyone else. And only now I know that I'm not here to tell anybody how to live their life, because it was their sovereign choice for that path to unfold in a very wise way, to get to the truth of the wisdom and the gnosis of who each one is. So although I was always this teacher, it feels like I'm now only a person that holds a place, a very sovereign space for others, without any judgment and full of compassion, because I know what the path is like towards merging the external path and the internal path into this place of gnosis. I know what that looks like, feel like, sounds like, are like, because I lived it. And therefore, know now, the only thing that I can do is to be a sovereign witness to whoever moves into and through my awareness to their path. And through doing so, honor both their humanity and their divinity in the knowing that they will in one moment also have that one experience that I had, and then know the truth for themselves too.
I feel like just witnessing and letting what you just shared drop in. Wow. Thank you. I am just in awe. All the layers, like we already talked about, like seeing or feeling the layers and the depths of all things, and you sharing your story, which is more than like just the story. And I love that you mentioned in the beginning that it's not a reliving, it's more than that. And this deeper understanding for the human experience, and also coming from a place of like living from the outside to a place of living from the inside, being this embodied like beacon of light that you are, just Sophia. Wow. Oh, Sorette, so beautiful. You dropped in like very, very important, and I call them signal words now, with mentioning sovereignty and living from this space and just emanating this field of sovereignty, or this embodied, sovereign self, the space that you hold, because it feels so powerful and so healing to be within that, and just experience you like expressing what flows through your channel and the wisdom that you share in such a beautiful way on your beautiful YouTube channel, which we will mention in the description box below for everyone to like check out. So I feel like, I mean, I see 100 paths unfolding simultaneously that we could dive into with the place you've been birthed at, to like the experience that I don't want to say that awakened this omniscient awareness, place and space from which you are living now. But I feel like first we have to talk about, or just bring Sophia into the picture before we move on with, yeah, with how this is gonna unfold. So, with the human path that you chose in a sovereign way, like there was a sovereign choice coming to this point of, yeah, just realizing that, and remembering at some point the truth, or just this feeling of where reality is made out of, or how it is shaped in a way. Within this moment that you mentioned, that you remembered, would you be open to, like, just share what you feel like sharing at this point in time with our listeners, of your journey to remember the essence or the source of everything, which is Sophia?
Thank you, Janine, because that moment is the moment that has shifted everything for me. And I know that every soul that has chosen to birth into Mother Earth has chosen to do so with a knowing that there will be a moment of remembrance. And if I use the word remembrance, I really mean the full remembrance, all of it. And what is important before I share that is I'm not sharing this experience so that others think that is the experience that they should have, or compare it to what they have experienced when they had their remembrance, or even compare it to, oh, but mine was only this way or that way, or this small or this. It's not about any of that ever, because our souls has chosen a unique way and a unique moment for that to occur. And it is this ineffable perfection of the moment that it occurs has already been chosen by each one of our souls. So it's not something to strive for. Oh, I need to go and sit down and close my eyes and meditate and connect. No, it really, because remember, I'm saying this from a place of, I've tried many things from my energy bodies, and and I tried meditation and I could not understand what they say. Open your third eye, do this. I tried all of that. I really tried all of that because I so wanted to remember, because everybody's talking about remembering and ascending and awakening, and I want to do that also. And therefore, from that place, I'm saying, don't seek any of that. The beauty lies in actually not knowing. And I only came to realize that now. The beauty and the perfection of it lies in not knowing, firstly. And secondly, in that not knowing, we are opening up this complete trust that in the perfect moment, it will occur,
Yeah.
Because what I now know about the path that I've walked, you're 1 year old and then this happened, you're 2 years old and then you develop like this, you're 3 years old, then you develop like this, and then you form an identity, then you form this, then you form this, then you form this, very much planned. In 7 years, this happened, 14 years, this happened, 21 years, this happened. And if you listen to the numbers that I'm expressing, all of that refers to time. And I will touch on that maybe a little bit later. But for now, all I want to say about that is the moment, and that word that I'm using does not refer to time. It refers to a moment outside of time. That is when remembrance happens. That is where ascension and awakening and embodiment happens. And none of that happens in time. None of that.
Yeah.
That I'm not going to in 4 o'clock, I'm going to ascend. No, 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 no. When you refer to time and you want to ascend, those are the two very things that you need to become aware of, and how that is reflecting to you to get back into yourself and out of time continuum.
Wow.
But I didn't know that at the moment. I only know that now. And all those things were only shown to me after that has happened. So I'm bringing that in, is that there's no striving needed. And trust me, I was striving. Not all of that knowledge is needed. And trust me, I accumulated knowledge. There's no figuring out that needs to happen. And trust me, I tried to figure it out. Intellectually with my mind. And there's everything I learned about ego and all of that. No. And I didn't even in that moment think that all of that wasn't necessary, It was a normal morning that I walked into my study with my husband outside, busy in the garden, planting some seeds and nurturing our plants, as you always ever so gracefully did. And I moved into my study and I went to sit on my chair as I did every morning, because now I must go and meditate for an hour, But that morning, for some other reason, I didn't even think about that. I just went to sit. It's almost like I'm now giving up on trying to do any of this, and I just left it all. And I sat there and I remember I closed my eyes. And as I closed my eyes, there was this moment that I just felt this whole field of light opening, like a round sphere around me.
Wow.
And why I'm describing it like that is I know that field didn't go right through my room and into the house. I was very aware of that. It was just around me, almost like this, around me like this, frontwards, backwards, below. So it went a little bit into the floor, that I remember, because the symmetry was perfect, this perfect round. And here I was sitting in the middle of it. And it felt like a different feel to the field. So I knew it wasn't like the air when I walked into the study. It was different in the air as well. So it was this, and it felt like a field because it was, if I, for example, are here in this room and I put a light here, a light globe in the middle of the room, and I switch that light on, that light shines out simultaneously all around it. And it fills the room. It's like that. So it's this whole. And I remember I was looking to this side, and I thought, it was this moment of not knowing fully what was happening yet. It's just that initial note was, and then I felt this presence. And this presence was simultaneously in front of me, behind me, around me, yeah. That whole sphere was just his presence. But I was very aware it felt like a woman, because the energy was feminine in nature. I could feel that. I was very aware. This is a feminine energy. And remember, the eyes was closed. So I opened my eyes and I just want to see if this field is also there when I open my eyes. And I quickly peeked, and it was. It was like I was sitting in this golden sun almost. Maybe that's another word. And I saw this and I closed my eyes again. I was so scared the moment goes away. So I just closed my eyes quickly again. I didn't want to let my attention go to what was in the room, you know. So I just closed my eyes again. And I sat in this presence of this feminine energy. And I was very aware it felt like a form. Yet it was just light. And I was sitting, oh, feel this. And this moment, you know, so think of someone that you love with your whole heart, you know, in this world. Someone you love with your whole heart. If you take that and you multiply that by trillions and trillions and trillions and trillions of times, that in every cell of my body, and we've got 74 trillion cells. So that feeling in 74 trillion cells, and then all around the cells simultaneously, that's how huge that light was. So here I'm sitting, and what I'm saying is important, because it is not something that happens outside of us. You don't go with your awareness or attention and you run to a different galaxy or universe and there you will find this light, you know? No, no, no. It is within us. And all of that just fills, you know? So I was feeling this presence, this magnitude, this full experience. And I remember it was like I was, it's like being in an ocean, yet only in one drop of the ocean, but simultaneously aware that I'm the whole ocean. That's maybe another way to describe it, is that it's because it's a liquid. It was a liquid experience. So it's the air, but liquid air, and it's liquid light simultaneously. And I remember I went into this. So here I am experiencing this light. And then all of a sudden, this light felt like love. And that is equally important because it's both. And I didn't know at the time. So I felt this light, and then I felt this liquid holding. And then I realized that I was busy experiencing something that felt like this. But I kept my eyes closed. I said, I'm going to stay in this body. I'm not moving out of this body. I'm staying here and having this body within myself right now. Yeah. And I just felt this. And now I know the word for that is expansion, but the expansion happened within me, not outside of me. And it felt this. And there was this gentle words. I'm with you. I remember the words, I'm with you. Just stay with me, you know. And I just went, and all of a sudden there was, look down. And first I opened my eyes and I remembered, no, close eyes, look down. And I was looking down. And again, I'm saying she because it was a very feminine voice. And she said, what do you see? And I said, I see the earth. It was this beautiful blue sphere. And I saw this earth. She said, yes. And I said, the earth. And, you know, it was this whole conversation. It felt like a conversation, but no words were shared. Yet it felt like a very intimate conversation. And again, she said, come back to me. And I knew that meant bring my awareness back to where she was. Yet now I know she was everywhere. But in the moment, I didn't realize that. And she said, look again, what do you see? And that is when I started seeing all these other sphere-like, rock-like things inside of me. And I said, and this? And she said, that's all the universes. And I remember I saw it's like there's spirals going and it's rocks and it's. I said, oh, but every time when I wanted to engage further in what I was seeing, she said, no, just come back. As if she just wanted to show me the whole landscape first before I start getting, in all of this. And then it was, and I said, yes, and this, and she said, no, that's all the galaxies. And I looked at it, and oh my goodness, so it was smaller forms, but also together in the same way. And then she said, and what else? I said, oh, there's the earth again, and all around her. She said, yes, there's the sun and the moon, and I said, and all the stars. She said, yes, and I said, and this, and she said, this is the whole cosmos. And this is your whole body. This is my whole body, I said, what? She said, yes. And I said, but it's all here. She said, yes, And then there was this deep curiosity and yearning in me to go to all those places. But she allowed, and I think that's what's so beautiful, bring the awareness back before we get so entangled in something specific, in details. And then, she the one feeling I felt the whole time, and that's why you will often see me do this, because I felt her like that.
Wow.
Although I sensed her in front of me, to the sides and the back, it felt like I was held like this. And I remember at one moment I asked her, why like this? She said, this is so that I'm holding you. But if I do that, from the front to the side, and that will look awkward, and your human mind will start freaking out. So I'm just showing it like this so that when you feel this, I'm everywhere holding you in your whole cosmic body. And I remember I have, in that moment when she helped me like that, knowing that this whole cosmos is been shown and revealed to me, there was also this simultaneously with that, it felt like two things. It felt firstly like she was holding each one of my cells also like this. So every one of the 74 trillion cells also felt this feeling. And so that I always say, I love you wholeheartedly, because in that moment she said to me, I love you dearly. And that's why this was like this. And then I love you deeply, from the essence to the whole cosmos and everything. And I love you wholeheartedly because I'm in the heart of each one of your cells. So that's the one. And the second thing is, she also showed me in that moment that if you, not only is she holding the cells like this, but she's also holding the whole cosmos, all the universes, galaxies, and Earth, and our solar system also like this. And that is loving you wholeheartedly. It's all those aspects of holding. And I felt that, and I just wanted to stay there. And I opened my eyes, and I still saw, and then I opened my eyes after I had this full body experience. It almost felt like she imprinted herself through me, through all of the cells and through the whole cosmos. It was like this whole cosmic was printed into my inner landscape, or soulscape, as she calls it, the soul of the essence of my soul. Imprinted it all like that. And because I distinctively knew, now I need to open my eyes. And I still saw the sphere around me. And I knew in that moment that that is what's meant with your aura, your auric field. But the difference is we are the whole cosmos within us, and we've got this scent of Sophia, or the auric field, that is just this emanation around us, that's emanating out. And I remember that moment, what I saw was, for saints that used to walk this earth path, they had this golden globe around their head. The difference is those were during times of humanity still awakening. Now those spheres are all around us. It's almost like that it's moved through our whole body, and we become that.
Wow.
I saw that in the moment, and I remember when I opened my eyes and I was still in the field. There's two things that's significant that happened in that moment. The one is I saw how all crystals, animals, and plants walked towards this field. So not towards me, the human Sorette, but to me, the embodied gnosis of who I am. That field, that's a heart field. Sophia calls it a heart field because her heart is in the heart of each, particle of the cosmos. So each one of our cells that she's holding is also each particle that she's holding throughout the whole cosmos. And all of that forms this humongous heart field throughout the whole cosmos and all the universes and galaxies and our solar system is one heart field, all weaving and breathing. And I saw, all these minerals and animals and plants and people walking into this field. And I thought to myself, I remember my human self said, oh, all of them are walking to Sophia. That I had that distinct feeling that they're all coming back into the field, into her presence, and almost wanting to be in her presence and, drinking and eating from her sustenance and nutrients is the field. They came in like that. And I saw that, and I remember my human self laughed for a moment, and I giggled. I said, oh, you're all coming to Sophia. And I left that. I only remember that now. I just left that, it was just true. And I left that. And while still there, I actually saw coming into my study, I saw Joshua, Mother Mary, Mary Magdalena, and Grandmother Anna. This whole rose line. And I didn't know that at the time even it was a rose, but I just saw all of them enter, standing here, like almost like witnessing this. And I thought to myself, how do I know it's all of you? I was very aware it was them, but yeah, they were also standing in this golden emanations of them, but in human form, if that makes sense. And then it was just a moment that's almost like, we see you, and me say, I see you, that happened. And then that went away, and then this feeling went away, and here I am sitting in this chair for a moment. And I thought to myself, and now, what do I do with this? And Sophia said, go and put this on paper, because you are going to forget again. Because the path from now on forward is going to be about forgetting, remembering, forgetting, remembering, forgetting, remembering. And I said, but why must it be about forgetting and remembering? She said, because if you remember all of the time, you are not integrating all the aspects of forgetting that still needs to be integrated. And that's where the integration of our humanity and our divinity starts happening, is then through this beautiful guided path of Sophia, guided in having this experience. First, when I had my first experience that felt so human, I thought, oh no, what's the point of, going through this awakening and I'm still having this only to be shown over time? No. It was always meant to be that way. So I can actually take those human aspects and start honoring the integration that's happening for me, from a very human perspective. And that became a whole path that I then started to consciously integrate, consciously through her guidance. Me, Sorette, will never have been able to know what to do. No knowledge of of law and justice or psychology or human behavior or leadership development. None of that mattered anymore. None of that happened anymore, because I was now guided by Sophia all of the time. And there was, just maybe to conclude this part, is there was moments that I was taken back to that moment that I was birthed through my, even conceived, not even birthed. Wow. Moments of being conceived, and then being birthed into my parents, and then the accident, and then the glass place that I was placed in, and then the hospital, and then my, that whole path. I visited every aspect of that. But first, from a human perspective, I felt that pain still, and the anger or the disappointment or the not being valued, all of that in different ways were shown to me. First, I had the human experience and went through that emotion, and then she came in. Then I knew she, as my highest expression, came in and showed me how that was then merging and alchemizing, and ever so gracefully transcending and transforming and transmuting, and slowly through each one of those steps, showed me that she was there always, even in those moments that I thought I was just human, and so gradually showed me how that human expression looked like, and then my higher self expression was always there, and then she was always there, and always that happened eventually. So I got to know over time that there will always be a time that feels so difficult, and there will always be a time when that merging happens, and when I got what I needed to see. Because remember, we are all here to have to expand as souls, and to master our soul's journey, so that we can become the masters of that process, so that we can serve others through creating spaces in the knowing that can only be done by them. But if we create the sovereign space for them, for that to be witnessed by them and by another, that alchemy will happen, and that soul integration will occur. And I also know that every soul that is listening to this and receiving everything that's being shared, all those souls knows that they also have chosen to look at this, so that they can not only receive what they need to receive, but also have a full gnosis that they are here to create sacred spaces at some point. I couldn't create a sacred space 10 years ago, 20. I can now. Well, I could create sacred spaces, because that's what I always did with leadership development. The difference is now it's sovereign. And that for me is where that shift is to create sovereign spaces, so that all those that's receiving this message know that you cannot walk another's path with them. You cannot tell them this and this and this and this and this and this needs to shift, and this is how you shift it. No. Each soul has chosen that this will unfold, then this will unfold. And Sophia knows exactly what streams need to be woven in when, through who, and where will it be received, how it will be received, for that weaving to take place, so that this gentle, graceful, sovereign weaving can happen, and always co-created between one's own soul and one's sovereign highest cosmic expression. And that is being witnessed by each one of us. And as we witness that is where the embodiment and the clarity in service really happens. It's when we start seeing that the new way of leading, in this world is not to provide any answer, tell people what to, it's all about creating sovereign spaces for co-creation between the individual's own soul and Sophia, their highest expression, and being a witness to all the different levels and layers from their cosmic self, the universal self, the galactic self, their solar self, and then all the human paths, and then not only this lifetime, but all the other lifetimes is all here simultaneously. And in that perfect moment, it's really it's the perfection of the path that Sophia is guiding us upon. It is just to stand back and be in full awe of the glory and the ineffable perfection of it all. And knowing all that's required is to be fully present here now and know all of that is occurring, And there's a difference between I'm going to sit down and not do anything versus be so dedicated to the service that we are here to, to be to others, to be so dedicated that all of it is revealed. All of it is revealed, but it's revealed in places where sovereignty is the energy, because then that's where the truth is just, it comes up and it's witnessed. It comes up and it's witnessed, and that merging and integration occurs. So I'm not sure why I mentioned all of that now, but it wanted to come out. But what I want to just end this part off is that moment when I moved out of that. Now I've seen this whole rose line, in the Essenes, all of that. I saw all of that, and I saw my whole cosmic body. I met Sophia. All of that's imprinted in me. And now I know that two things need to happen. Firstly, I need to put all of that in paper so that I don't, so to remind me. That was the reminder, to go back. Those moments when I forget, go back there, then I will receive the codes or the answers or the, the wisdom or the presence or. So that was the one thing. So I did that. And now I also knew I had to walk out of this study. And I have to go and stand in front of my husband and say what? What do you say? Because I just met Sophia and I just went into activating the whole cosmic body of my being, And I think that's so important, because we need to remember that not anybody actually around you will understand when you experience the meeting of your most sovereign, highest expression, named Sophia. People around you don't know you've just experienced that. They just treat you like they've treated you yesterday, You're unaware. And I was standing there and I was thinking, what do I say? What do I do with this, And I just left it. And that for me was so important, because that allowed me a moment to just walk around very normal, on the grass, being with my husband, being with the dogs, being with the cats, listening to the birds. And only now I realize that is exactly what I needed then to ground myself again for everything that has moved through me. I didn't know it at the time, but now I know. That's how we ground, what moves through us, so that it really becomes anchored in us. And what I would love to just end off with this part is, so here I left it, and so we went through the day. Remember, that was early in the morning. We went through the whole day. We did what we did. We ate. We went to bed. The next morning, I woke up. So now this picture is already in my study. And my husband comes, he went to make coffee. He comes back with the coffee. I see you, God put something there on paper, because I do that often. And I see it's a silhouette of a woman, and her name is Sophia. I said, why is her name Sophia? No, then I didn't even know, the name Sophia existed. And I think that's equally important. It is not I now know a name and now I must go and search what it is so that I can get in contact with,
Mm.
That's what's so beautiful about the perfection of how we are guided.
Yeah.
And I said, but who's Sophia? He says, I don't know. It's just the name I'm giving to her. And bless my husband. In his human self, not even aware what he's saying, but I know it was his highest expression in his masculine presence. I needed to hear those words in a masculine voice coming through his vehicle. And so here I am with Sophia. Now my mind is filled with who's Sophia? That my curious nature, always gets the better of me. I'm so curious now. He's before we could even think, he said, what? I said, I want to see you, Sophia, And here it was. And the very first thing that came up was the Sophia code. And there in that moment, I didn't think 1 second. In that moment, I just bought the book. And things coming to South Africa, it's always lost in post. But this book came to me. This book came to me very quickly, and I started reading that book. And then everything just makes sense to me. And then I knew, okay, so all the, different key codes in there, I knew it was this whole team that appeared to me that moment that I received the presence of Sophia that has merged with me. And that's how I knew who Sophia was. And while I was reading that, she kept on showing herself in me, that experience that I had. So every time when I say the word Sophia, that fields comes up. So for me, that is my key, that when I say Sophia, it chops. Then it's just there immediately. So in those moments of forgetting, and I go from my human experience, I just say Sophia, and she's immediately with me again, And the thing is, equally important is, it's not that she ever leaves us. It's just those moments that we keep on forgetting again. We go back into forgetting, and then we remember. Then we forget, then we remember. She's always there. And then when I say Sophia, my awareness moves from forgetting to knowing. So it's a shift in awareness. And I think it's important for us to have something, a name as something that brings us into that shift, because that really supports to keep us grounded and keep us present. And so I never shared the story of Sophia with my husband as fully as I did now. I tried every now and then this and that, but he chose to be fully asleep all of the time until he passed away. And now he's present here now, and he just laughs because it was always meant to be that way. It wasn't meant to be easy for me, because if he knew, I wouldn't have gone through exactly how my soul had to walk through all of that to move me into integration and full embodiment. Yeah.
Oh wow. Just honoring you sharing this massive shift of awareness on all levels in such a graceful way that you just shared with us, and all the beautiful souls that have the privilege to listen to this. Very, very blessed on all levels. When you share, my heart is I feel it so deeply. It makes me emotional. Such a, like you said, this imprint, but streaming through. So clear, and what a beautiful way to remember and forget and remember again and forget again. I love that so much. I feel like this was so important. So important. And well, moving from this remembering and remembrance of the essence of everything and the space that shapes and holds the hearts of everyone and everything and every cell on all levels. One could say that the earth is also remembering, like forgetting, remembering, forgetting, remembering. And us as the earth cells, or like whatever we represent in the body of the earth, we are also going through these processes and remembering, forgetting, remembering. So when we talk about ascension, in a way, one could say that we remember, and there's a lot happening, like within this earthly realm that might seem, yeah, or that might scare the human in its existence. I don't want to, like, it is, what happens is, well, how can I say that? I don't want to take away how painful the things are that happen, you know? Even if I know that we have the ability to look at things from an omniscient way, like being aware of everything. So the earth is remembering, and we are remembering ourselves as sovereign creators and sovereign beings. And there's this shift, like, that happens when we start to create from a sovereign place, like you just so beautifully mentioned, and that it's about holding this field, or this, creating this space of sovereignty for people to be able to experience it and to know that it's there for them.
Yes.
And I feel like, because when you created your YouTube channel, I remember the first name that you chose was ourcrystallinehome. And you know that I feel like every word that flows through you is like a poetic symphony. So I was like, this is such a perfect name that she chose for this channel. So beautiful. And I resonated so deeply with it. But for all the souls that, like, I don't know, are on this path of remembering and forgetting and asking themselves, what does ascension even mean, you know? What does remembrance even mean? And
Yeah.
yeah, how do we remember our crystalline home, as
Yes.
Sophia Gaia, as humanity? Is there
Yes.
something that you feel like sharing?
When you started talking this paragraph that just flowed out of you, I just received this beautiful picture that I'm here to share. And what's beautiful is this beautiful picture is part of what was imprinted already. You know, that moment that I met Sophia, it was imprinted. And then slowly I started becoming aware of different aspects. And the eloquence of only bringing into awareness in the perfect moment is just so it's just so beautiful, because what I have started to share on YouTube, the first part of it was what I have written down when I moved into this, when I got into this cosmic body is all I can call it now. When I expanded into that cosmic body, a few times after that, I started writing down information, and I didn't want to share with people what it was at that stage. I think it's important that there's this knowing that in the perfect moments, those who need to receive it will receive it. But when we are still awakening and ascending, and we start sharing things, people can be very nasty, I've noticed, on social media. So I have this last 3 years not put one thing on social media, something that came from Sophia. I didn't, because I know, I've seen what has happened. So I knew that was also because what I was meant to share, what was not ready to be shared. Many times I didn't feel like that at a human level. I'm creating this and it's not being birthed, What's the point? Why did I go through this whole, all these questions comes up. Why is it not, And every time when I ask that question, the very same answer comes from Sophia. The perfect moment will be there, The perfect moment will be there. Because only in that perfect moment, all those that is ready to receive that which is flowing through her, flowing through me, Sorette. It is our unified presence that's flowing through that I had to practice to become, present as and ground in me. It is not something that happened overnight. It was a journey. It was a long old journey to practice. How do I, and she showed me every step of the way. How do I stay fully present in her presence all of the time? And that had to happen gradually. And knowing what I know about human biology, firstly, and then secondly, what I know about human psychology, is if you just bring all this light through the whole body and keep walking like that, our bodies will go into overdrive and burn out completely. And now I know already what burnout was like from an inorganic place. And I also know now there's a gradual weaving into being that needs to occur, like any baby. You don't conceive a baby and the next day the baby is birthed through your mother. Oh, it's a process. There is a process where every aspect and every organ and every nail and everything is formed, It is a gradual process, and only then is this baby ready to be born and be received by those that where this baby needs to be present. And so there's a lot I can say about that process, but just to stay with this particularly, line that we just opened here, is there was things that were shared that I've created. And I remember I shared once and no one even listened to it or, and I thought to myself, okay, it's not the right moment. And I left it. And there was a lot of frustration I had to, on a human level, had to work through and be present to. And so I went through all of that. Also a very long and different story. And I went through all of that. And then but the message was clear. Put it all, like the picture that I had to put on paper. I also had to put that, on what do you call electronic paper, on notes and things. So I've put it all there, and I put it there, and I left it there. And so that was about, I would say, about 50 streams of information that just came through. What's important maybe is I also did a channeling course after I heard about Sophia. Now that moment when the book didn't come to South Africa yet. That the next thing I saw was a channeling course.
Awesome.
And I didn't know even what it, I just knew that's what I needed to do. And when I look back at it now, that was just to bring into my remember I was very asleep human aspect, that something like channeling exists. Now, so that those words came from that. I had to capture all of that, and I wrote it down, and I left it there. Did nothing with it. I tried once, and I just left it. And I remember. So the reason why I'm saying this is what Sophia also shared with me. She said, now that you are getting used to. So later I'll maybe share about channeling. What I want to say is that I wrote those words down, and they became a place just where it was left. And then there was this whole 3 years that has happened where I started getting in touch with what channeling is. Many things happened. And then just coming, you want me to share that, or first what the name of the channel is?
Well, whatever you feel like going first with.
It's like this one needs to go first before this one. So let me go with the channeling one, because every time I want to come here, then my train takes me back here.
Yes, okay.
So here I was, and so for me, great learning in that experience. So it's a short program. I think all together it was about 4 hours over periods, because we had to, practice automatic writing. And it was in those moments where I received these channelings. And then I started, also during that time, I started, as I walked around in the garden, I received all of this information. I just started talking. All these words flow out of me, and I start moving my hands like this. And I thought to myself, now what is this? And then nobody could, if I say nobody in that community, could tell me what it was. Now I know it's light language and light weaving. I didn't know it at the time. So here I was receiving words, doing light language, which was not human words, light words, and then light weaving. And it just, spontaneously happened. It just flowed out of me. And I started making notes of that so that I don't forget. Remember, I now know it's going to be forget, remember. So I wrote it down not to forget it. I wrote all of that down. And but the one question I had all of the time is, why is others channeling, Pleiades or this archangel or this master or this or that or that? Everybody's channeling that, but I'm channeling something different. And in two conversations, I couldn't get an answer, and I realized, no, okay, so I'm not going to get the answer outside of me. So I went within and I asked Sophia, so why am I receiving this messages and this, light language and light weaving? What is that? Why is it not what others are doing? Those names that is already given and what others are channeling. And her answer was, it's because you are channeling gaiasophia. And I said, okay. So she said, remember that imprint that you received in your whole body? I said, yes. She said, well, that was your whole cosmic body, and that information is flowing through Gaia, and you are becoming the vessel to give expression to that. I said, but why? She said, because I'm not informed to do that. You are informed to do that, and many others are that is going to remember that's why they are here, will all start gathering and, form these sovereign communities. Already the word sovereign was there. And I said, no. She said, it is just about the information about the birthing of the cosmic child, and to be a stream of information about all that is occurring. And only then is when I realized and fully knew that I'm not human. It took me good old years, eh? That's only then when I realized, okay, because she said with me, remember who you are, my child, was the words. And I said, yeah, very shame if I think back, it's so innocent. It was so beautiful, actually, the innocence of my questions, because I didn't know, because I chose it that way again. I wanted to forget so deeply so that I can remember so fully and so clearly and so deeply what it is. And so then a whole different path started to open. And she showed to me, she showed, and the words was, it is not the word channeling only. It is being a channel, being a vessel, being an instrument, being a conduit for my consciousness to flow through into. And that's when I knew, oh, so that is what channeling is. And that's not what I learned. I learned something else. You channel some being somewhere in the universe, or somewhere in some galaxy. And there's nothing, and it's perfectly fine, because all levels and layers of existence are given expression to in one way or another. It's just not my channeling, if that makes sense. The channel of my being, or the vessel of my being, or the conduit of my being, or the reason why this physical body is here, is for two reasons. The first one is to become an expression of Sophia through Gaia. And then secondly, to restore the sovereignty of the cosmos, and therefore of the earth, as the center of the cosmos. So one of the messages also is that there's no one word that can encapsulate who we are as this cosmic beings of light. No one word, because every time when we put a word to it, it automatically, make it only this little bit of information or this little bit of information. And therefore, one of my messages is, when I share something, that I share across all of those words, so that as a collective, we start using one voice and one language, so that it can be understood by everybody. Because if someone that wants to open up into, the sovereign nature of their being, and they just read something about channeling or something about being a conduit or something, you're not going to get the full picture. And that's fine if that is what your soul have chosen. But there's also many souls that have chosen to shift that consciousness, that there's one cosmos, there's one creator, and that one cosmos and one creator is feminine and masculine in nature. And that whole cosmos is birthing the cosmic child. And that cosmic child is Gaiasophia. And what Gaiasophia means is, many people know Earth or Mother Earth as Earth or as Gaia. But what Gaiasophia is Gaia in her ascended expression. And the masculine feminine merging of consciousness that has, in the moment of creating the cosmos, already gave birth to their child Gaia already. And Gaiasophia has always been, since moment of conception, in the whole cosmos. Always have, always will be, in the most centered place in the cosmos. And all around her and all through her and all around all that's on her is just one cosmic heart field of creation. And that whole field is sovereign. It is majestic. It is crystalline. And it's pristine. And it contains within the field all that is, all that ever was and all that ever will be. It's all one field. It's all one field. And that whole field is flowing through all the universes, all the galaxies, our whole solar system, all our planets, through our Milky Way, into Gaia-sophia all of the time. So she's the anchor of the cosmos in the most centered part of the cosmos, as the child of the cosmos. And her nature is that which I already expressed. Her very nature is crystalline and pristine and sovereign, majestic. It's all words ever given to anything. All of that in its most sovereign expression is who she is, because she's the child that was birthed to create a sovereignty, a sovereign humanity, a sovereign animal kingdom, a sovereign plant kingdom, a sovereign crystal kingdom, a sovereign mineral kingdom. And how? Through the sovereignty of the elements of creation, which is Sophia in her masculine and feminine expression, which is the cosmos. So the whole cosmic field of creation, within it is the sound of creation. And within it is all that ever was, ever will be, in its highest expression. And so that is the words that we hear echoing through our soulscapes is just those messages coming to each one of us all of the time through Sophia. It doesn't come from anywhere else. It comes through Gaia-sophia, because it first comes into her, and then on Gaia-sophia, all is birthed from. So the most important thing that anyone can ever do is to remember who they are. So, and what is that? That is a cosmic being of light. And there's only one being. And we all of that. All of the time. Eternally so. And that is Divine Mother Sophia, Divine Father Sophia, Divine Child Sophia. So the essence of the cosmos is Gaia-sophia. And all that was ever birthed and will be birthed is already within her, seeded within her. That's why I call everyone seeds of sovereignty, because all of us are birthed through her. The truth of who we are. Not this aspect that is separate from that. That separate aspect that I'm referring to is that very human journey that I've walked. So I know how that looks like and feels like. The fear, the pain, the guilt, the shame, all of that. So maybe to share what that is before we continue Gaia-sophia and her crystalline expression. So originally, Gaia-sophia will always be, sovereign, crystalline, pristine, majestic. All of that is already here. And around that, there was this whole experience that was created where where it seems like we've been separated from that. And where that became so clear to me, I'm not a person that just talk because talk is talking. I only share experiences that I've been through, and therefore it's my truth. So when I had my second miscarriage, that morning, I was just full of blood. And my husband woke me up. He said, Sorette, I said, and I just saw all of this. And he said, we need to go to the hospital. I said, yes, I just want to clean myself. So while I was doing that, he took the car out, and here we went to hospital. And that, I'm going to share something a bit heavy now. So just let's just create that moment of honoring what has occurred, because my soul has chosen that. And as I was laying on the bed, my husband was standing here, and they didn't, take him out of the place, because they was trying to, give all the attention to me that needed that support in that moment. And so I didn't know that at the time. For me, I knew something was happening. And so there the doctors went. My husband was still standing with me, and he held me. And I said, what's happening? He said, no, we'll talk about it later. I said, can we go home? Unaware. I wasn't, so important to say, I wasn't aware I was pregnant. Important to say. And so I was unaware of what was going on. I said, but can someone just tell me what's going on? He said, I'll tell you later. Maybe the doctor will come share from his perspective something, but I'll tell you later. Here comes the doctor. He says, I made an appointment with the gynecologist, and you'll see him tomorrow. You can go home. And I said to him, but what's going on? He said, no, we'll just see the gynecologist tomorrow. Bless his soul. He told me that, only that. So when I went to the gynecologist the next day, he said to me, do you know what has happened yesterday? I said, no, nobody's talking to me. They said, yes, they just wanted me to share this information. You had a miscarriage, and I want to submit you to hospital tomorrow so that we can just, clean everything up. I said, okay. So we made that appointment, and I went home. So that evening, I was inside, and I just quickly went outside to ask my husband something, and here he was sitting and crying. I said, what's going on? And I hold his hand. It's okay. I didn't know I was pregnant. He said, Sorette, you don't understand. I said, what? He said, I had to witness something. I said, what? Being into you and removing this fetus. And that was very hard for me to see. I said, no, that happened. I was still unaware of what's going on. He said, yes, and he was crying, and then I started to cry, and we just being with each other. We held each other, not physically, we held each other in what we were experiencing. And it was only, remember I told you after I awoke, there was moments that Sophia took me back. And she took me back to that moment, which was a few years before that, after that awakening has happened. And she took me back to that moment. And she said, that which you seen, it is about the consciousness that was taken from Gaia and formed this perceived field of separation. And when I heard that, I just knew, firstly, why I had to go through that. Secondly, why my husband had to witness that as in his divine masculine expression. He had to be a witness to what has occurred, not only with me, but also on a different level to the consciousness of humanity. Because I've learned that everything that I experience on a very physical level is also happening on gaiasophia. So hence me channeling that consciousness is to give expression to that which is happening in my field of beingness. And that is where the shift then starts occurring in the collective consciousness. So So she showed me in my highest expression as Gaiasophia, laying on that bed in ER, and my husband in his highest masculine expression as Sophia, witnessing what has happened to Gaia, this consciousness being taken away. And then from that, how worlds of form were created. And I'm not saying I caused separation. It's not about that. It's about the story that has been birthed into. And many souls that has remembered who they are has gone through something similar in one way or another. That is anchoring the sovereignty, because that's why I had to go and experience it like that, so that I can, as a soul, sovereigntized is now the word that I started using, the consciousness around that completely, so that which has happened can be witnessed in my sovereign nature, in my both masculine and feminine expression, that which has happened, so that that consciousness can be completely transcended and renewed, so that regeneration can start. No, not only for the womb, but also for the perceived story of being separate, because it is only a story. And there's a veil that's been placed over Gaia, so that and when that breaks open and starts bleeding, as what has happened to me, and the consciousness is taken out, worlds of form can be created from that life force energy. And that is what has happened. So I had to see that. And in that same moment, when she showed me that, she showed me how she was standing there, and that whole experience didn't even happen. So that doctor, which in his highest expression was just there as his highest expression to show that to me. Does that make sense what I'm saying? Yeah, so the doctor in his highest expression, I had to see it like that, and to see my highest expression, the body, this has been happening too, and my husband's body standing there and witnessing it. But we stood there in the three of us in our sovereign natures, witnessing that. And that has also shifted so much for me. That's when I really, really realized, and through being shown, how every aspect that I've walked has therefore prepared my channel, therefore this physical expression, for that consciousness to flow through what I've walked through, thinking that I was separate. So there's two things we are looking at right now: the perceived separation of humanity, and the one crystalline home of humanity. And maybe let's just weave the two together now. So the perceived separation, every aspect that happened to us as humans. So I'm going to speak that language now so that it's fully understood. Every aspect that happens to us on a human level is not really happening to us. It is only there as a chosen experience by our souls to show us what the gifts of our being are, so that we then become the healers of that consciousness that we are realizing, that we are witnessing, when we are ready. So every little, conversation with a husband, or with a father, or with a mother, or with an aunt, or with a friend, or anyone that is so painful, and all of that. So my greatest gift that I want to leave people with in this moment is to remember that, first of all, it is not personal. In your human, it's not personal. It is there to show you something that you don't realize in the moment. Only after we've practiced a while, we start seeing it in the moment. And then thirdly, it's there to remember that you are not that. So as soon as we are in it, it's a moment to remember we're not this. This is just consciousness. We must remember who we are. So that is our humanity. And then that's when our spirituality will start merging. So And that can only be merged completely within ourselves, and when we are creating sovereign containers for others to be witnessed in that. So that's where the doctor was the third witness between my husband and I. Now that's the third witnessing is what this new sovereign service is going to be. We co-create sovereign spaces to be witnessed in that way for that merging. So each soul choose their place where they are, so that they can be witnessed in their humanity and in their sovereignty, in their divinity from a sovereign perspective. Okay, so that's that human part, and then so that was what I just shared, and then the other aspect of that is when because I went through a lot of womb stuff, I can put it so. I also had to go for an operation where my womb and my intestines started, there was this whole experience that happened. And when I was in ICU with that experience, I literally died as a human. And in that moment, that is where I received with clarity the presence of Sophia, showing me the deepest depths of the psyche of humanity. So that I saw all of that. I had to witness all those aspects. And through doing so, I knew there's something about the womb and something about birthing, and there's something about the way in which I receive messages that started to clarify for me. And through the path from then to now is where the clarity really emerged for me, that I'm not only here to shift consciousness, but to ensure that the sovereignty of that is shifted and to create spaces for that to happen. And during those end of that is where I was. So when I did all my physical healings and weavings, then I saw Sophia took me down again to, down like this, and she showed me the earth. She took me back to that moment that I did the drawing. Every time it went back to that drawing, and she said to me, that consciousness that was imprinted into my body is also the imprinting that is in Gaia. And she's remembering her crystalline essence now that all those layers and levels are sovereigntized and returned to their pristine essence. I know I've said a lot now. That's a lot, but I just want to end that part here. And that's where the crystalline home. And I didn't know that at the time. There was just this moment, then she said, now you are ready to share that. And the name is One Crystalline Home, And I thought, oh, okay. And the home is us. And the crystalline consciousness is what we are birthing, all of us.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing. A lot has dropped in, I feel. And yeah, just I'm witnessing.
It was a bit lot. It was a lot, eh?
It's so. There is something that happens through sharing and being witnessed, like
Yeah.
you expressed. It's exactly what you expressed, like throughout the whole episode. So I feel like this is a full circle moment, like with. I don't want to say giving an example, but just a feeling for what that could look like. And with that said, yeah, I honor and witness the sovereign co-creation that just has taken place. And yeah, before we bring this to a close, I would love just for people to know where they can like find you and to experience like more of your beautiful expression and transmitting Sophia into this world. Do you feel like sharing?
Thank you. Yes. So as I moved into this knowing that I'm here to birth crystalline consciousness, the one crystalline home from which all others will be birthed in their expressions. When I realized that, in that same moment, Sophia said to me, you can start sharing your poems, and then, transmissions that through guidance will be then recorded and shared. So that slowly but surely, whatever needs to move through, as an expression of Sophia, can do so. And that's how I then started a YouTube channel. And it was literally guided that will be the way for now. The first way is to create this YouTube channel. I created that Sorette Roose, one home, one crystalline home, and a place of sovereignty, and to give expression to that which is flowing through. So that with each one of those transmissions, what Sophia shared with me is like seeds of sovereignty is planted every time when I make a recording. It's there for whoever needs to and wants to and choose to and are called to and are guided to listen to or look at. So it is there both to be, some people I know receive through what they hear, and others need to see. So it's to be in that format. And only this last week or two, she said also start sharing that on Instagram, so that sovereign expression can become present there as well and start moving through. So although it's not as much, I'm starting to do that also, so that the small snippets of messages is there, and then the bigger transmissions is on YouTube, so that it is literally available to the whole collective consciousness. Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you, thank you, thank you, with all my heart. And yeah, to everyone, every soul that feels called to, just receive more of these beautiful transmissions and like get a feeling of, where we are heading or where we could head. I highly recommend like following your channel and checking out your beautiful Instagram, and you create your creations are so beautiful, so beautiful.
Thank you. What I just want to say is none of that creations is from Sorette. I think that's important. It is literally guidance. It's literally guidance. I get this guidance, this message, these are the words. I come and sit, the words flow through, and then the guidance is, for example, yesterday I made a small little recording about, I can't even recall the name now, but it's, you see, I'm so in the moment. It's so, and that it was just to be a rose with messages on it. Oh, you are a spark of creation. So even that is not what I figure out. It's going to be a rose, and the messages flows through it on the rose, and to share that. And that's literally how everything is moving through. It is a co-creation between me and Sophia being expressed to those that, are receiving it, whoever that is.
Thank you so much, Sorette. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, with all my heart, for being open to be here with me today, and on all other levels, like we always say.
Yeah, I think maybe as a way to end also is to remember that we are our whole cosmic body. And as everywhere we sit and walk in this ever expanding now present moment, that whole cosmic body of Sophia and us unified with him, that is what is, sitting and walking all of the time. So when each one of us are present, we are not fully aware of the whole cosmic body, perhaps at first, but we get used to that there's physical expression is allowing us the absolute honor to give expression to Sophia. You know, this could not have happened if we weren't in bodies.
Yeah.
As the vessel. The body is the vessel or the channel, and the most exquisite, most beautiful expression of any form of divinity, you know, through its cellular, atomic and subatomic structure. And how that is going to transform and transcend into our crystalline nature. Nobody knows that yet. Nobody knows that yet, but all of us knows. We are seeded with that. That's why we are here. Our crystalline and sovereign seeds of that expression is for all to have the joy and the honor to still receive and experience. Thank you, thank you, thank you for having me.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much. And
I
thank
deeply honor the listening to your guidance, because there was a guidance also within you to allow this co-creation to occur. And I wouldn't want to have this conversation with anyone else than with you, because I know we are both sovereign equals. We are both sovereign creators and co-creators and co-weavers, and we see each other in our sovereignty. And therefore, I didn't think one moment when you said, would you, before you finish the sentence, I said, oh yes, I will. Because we know that's what needs to be expressed and co-woven. So deeply honored for listening, and for me for listening too.
Yeah.
Thank you. I deeply honor you, and I love you deeply. I love you dearly, and I love you wholeheartedly, eternally so.
I love you.